During a Windows update, the screen says do not turn off your PC. An Android phone does that work in the background, then just restarts. Same job, same kind of disk. One of them is telling you it cannot survive an interruption. You might think the danger is a half written file. It is not. The danger is two writes that both finished and disagree. A disk does one write at a time. Almost nothing you change on a computer is one write. So there's always a gap in the middle, and in that gap, the disk is holding a version of events that was never true. Lose power there and the machine wakes up holding it. That gap is easiest to see in the smallest change you possibly make to a disk. You add one piece of data to the end of a file. Disk hands out space in fixed size pieces, and the real word for one piece is a block. There's a part of the operating system whose entire job is remembering which block belongs to which file. That part is the file system. To add one block, it has to write in three separate places. Your data goes into a free block. A list of what is free gets marked, so nothing else grabs that block. And the file's own record gets updated, so the file knows the block is now part of it. Three writes the disk does one at a time. Say your data landed and nothing else did. It's sitting in a block that nothing claims. No file points at it. The list still says that block is free. And it's as if the write never happened. That one is harmless. Say the list landed instead and your data did not. Now the list says the block is taken and no file has taken it. That space is lost. It stays marked as used for as long as the disk lives, and nothing on the machine will ever hand it back. Now the third one. The list and the files record both landed and your data did not. Look at the disk and everything agrees. Every list matches every record. The file simply points at a block full of whatever happened to be in it before and hands that to you as your data, as though nothing had gone wrong. That third case is the dangerous one because nothing is broken, there's nothing for a repair to find. That was one block on one file. A system update does that same small dance again and again on file after file, including the files your computer needs in order to start at all. The power can go in the gap of any one of them. So the first idea anybody had was to write the new version straight over the old one. There's the idea that doesn't work, and every fix since has been another way of arranging for there to be nothing half finished to undo. Your instinct might be that the machine could just look at the disk afterwards and work out what happened. That's exactly what it did for years. It runs before you are allowed to use the disk at all. It reads every file's record to work out which blocks are genuinely in use, then rewrites the free list to agree with them. It counts how many folders point at each file and corrects the count where it's wrong. And any file that nothing points at gets moved into a folder for lost things. It works. It's also in the words of the textbook that teaches this. Incredibly expensive to scan the entire disk to fix problem that occurred during an update of just three blocks. The picture the textbook uses is dropping your keys on the floor in your bedroom and then searching the entire house starting in the basement. On a large disk, that walk takes many minutes or hours and you can't use the machine while it runs. I should be fair to the checker because it isn't doing anything stupid. It starts in the basement for one reason. Nobody wrote down which room, and there's one kind of damage it cannot touch even then. The tidy case where every list agrees and the file points at a block of old rubbish. The checker's entire method is hunting for disagreement. And in that case, there is none. So the analogy only goes so far. You'd had at least find your keys. So write down which room. Before touching anything, put a short note somewhere fixed on the desk saying, I am about to put these three things in these three places. Then do the work, then cross the note out. Now a power cut has an answer. When the machine comes back, it reads the note. No note at all means nothing was in progress. A note crossed out means the work finished. And a note still standing means the machine does exactly what it says again and it's done in a moment instead of an hour. That note has a name, it's a journal, and is the reason a modern machine comes back from a power cut without walking the whole disk. The idea was taken from databases, and the textbook is blunt about why. Write ahead logging was invented to address exactly this type of problem. But the note is written to the same disk that's about to lose power, so the note can be interrupted too. And it fails in a way I wouldn't have guessed. The note goes down in pieces an opening marker, then the contents, then a closing marker carrying a number that matches the opening one. You might think the machine writes each piece, waits for the disk to confirm it, and only then sends the next. That would be safe. It's also slow. And it's far faster to hand the disk all of it in one go and let the disk sort out the order, which means the pieces can land in any order, lose power at the wrong moment, and what's on the disk is an opening marker, a closing marker with the matching number, and garbage in between. That note looks perfect. It has both ends. So when the machine comes back, it reads that note and carefully copies the garbage onto the disk. into the exact place the note asked for, because the note is the only thing it has left to trust. If that place happens to be a piece of the file system's own bookkeeping, the machine will not be able to use the disk at all. The fix came from a graduate student, and you are almost certainly running it. Put a checksum in both markers, which is a small number worked out from the contents. On the way back up, work it out again from what's actually there. If the two don't match, the note was stolen while it was being written, and the whole thing gets thrown away instead of replayed. The textbook's line is that it went into the next generation of the Linux file system and now ships on millions of machines worldwide, including Android. None of that is free. Everything the machine writes, it now writes twice. Once into the note, once into the place it was actually going. A long copy that would have taken 10 minutes takes 20 because a long steady write is now running at half the drive stop speed, which is why most systems put only the bookkeeping into the note and leave the content of your files out of it. That's faster. It also means the file system comes back in one piece while a file you were writing may not. This is not somebody else's operating system. Microsoft's own description of NTFS, the file system Windows runs on, is that it keeps a transaction based log file, which is the note, and that after a system failure, it uses that log to restore file system consistency at the next startup. Your Windows PC already survives having its power pulled, and the screen still says do not turn off your PC. I have been letting the journal take credit for something it doesn't do. It does not make your update safe. What it makes safe is each individual write. Every one of those little three write jobs is now all or nothing, but an update is a whole pile of those jobs. Stop in the middle of the pile, and every single job inside it is perfectly finished. The machine is halfway between two operating systems. Some of your files are the new version, some are the old one. Nothing is corrupt and nothing needs repairing. It simply is not a computer that runs because the new files are expecting other new files that have not arrived. And there is no note that fixes that. The note would have to say, I'm about to replace the operating system, and if I stop, put every bit of it back. Putting it back means writing the old version again. Writing the old version again needs power, and it can die in the same place. So stop trying to update the thing you're running. Keep two copies of the operating system on the disk instead. Android's documentation calls them slots, and there are two of them. You're running from one of them. The update gets written into the other one, the one nothing is using, while you carry on with whatever you were doing. And now nothing about it is delicate. A half written copy is not a system anybody is running. Nobody is booting it. You can cut the power in the middle of it as often as you like, and the machine you come back to is the one you had this morning because it never stopped being the one you were running. Then at the very end, one thing changes, and it is not the operating system, it is one number. That number sits outside both copies and it says which copy to start. The thing that reads it is the bootloader, the small program that runs before any operating system and picks one to start. Chromium OS publishes exactly how it decides. Each copy carries a counter of how many attempts it has left. The bootloader looks for a copy with attempts left, subtracts one from that counter, and then tries to boot it. The order is the point. It spends the attempt before it finds out. It has to, because there's no way to ask a system whether it works. So you can only go and see, and you have to survive being wrong. So if the new copy doesn't come up, the attempts run down, and the machine boots the old one. Android's wording is that if an update is applied but fails to boot, the device reboots back into the old partition and remains usable. The old partition is the old copy. That cost a whole second copy of the operating system sitting on your disk doing nothing for the life of the machine. Is the most expensive fix on this list, and it is the only one that makes an interruption boring. One thing to be straight about: Android Chromium OS publish their designs, which is why they are the ones I can quote. Microsoft publishes the NTFS log and does not publish an equivalent design for Windows Update. So nothing I have just described is a claim about what your PC is doing while that screen is up. What is published and what you can see for yourself is the difference in what the two machines ask of you. One of them needs you to stand there, the other one does not. You would think that settles it. One number, one write, and a single write either happened or it did not. I have described every step of this as if the disk does what it's told. It does not. Drives keep a small amount of fast memory of their own, called a write cache. When the operating system sends a write, the drive is allowed to drop it into that memory and report straight back that the write is complete. It is not on the disk yet. The textbook puts it exactly the way. The disk will inform the operating system the write is complete when it simply has been placed in the disk's memory cache and has not yet reached disk. And if the operating system sends another write after that one, ordering between writes is not preserved. Now hold that against everything above, write the note, then do the work, write the second copy, then change the number. Every fix on the list is a sentence with the word then inside it. And then is exactly what the disk has just taken away. So the operating system has to demand that ordering. It sends a barrier, which is a marker meaning nothing after it reaches the disk until everything before it has. The Linux kernel's own documentation states the trade in one line, with barriers enforce proper on-disk ordering of journal commits, making volatile disk write cache safe to use at some performance penalty. You can also switch them off. The same page says that if your disk has a battery behind it, turning barriers off may safely improve performance. And the word safely is carrying real weight in that sentence. And then there is one line in the textbook that takes even the barrier away. Recent research shows that some disk manufacturers, in an effort to deliver high performing disks, explicitly ignore write barrier requests. The drive is told to wait, it reports that it waited, it did not. And the textbook summary of that is one sentence. The fast almost always beats out the slow, even if the fast is wrong. So the chain, one change to a disk is several separate writes, and a power cut in the gap leaves the machine holding a state that was never true. Checking for that afterward means walking the whole disk, which takes minutes or hours, and still can't see the tidy kind of damage where nothing disagrees with anything. So the machine writes a note first and replays it in a moment instead. And because an update is not one write but a mountain of them, the machines that never have to warn you keep a second copy of themselves and change one number at the end. And every step of that assumes the drive does what it is told. So the next time a screen tells you not to turn your computer off, you know what the sentence is admitting. It is not about the file being written, it is a machine telling you it has one copy of itself. And at this moment, it's somewhere between two versions of that copy. Alright, if you like the video, make sure you like and subscribe. Thank you for watching.